Hey everyone, and welcome to the Wolfpacker Show. My name's Ethan McDowell. I'm your host, and I am joined, as I always am, every week by Noah Fleischman. We're here to break down the upcoming matchup with Marshall, scheduled for Saturday, 2 p.m. kickoff on the CW network, NC State's second game on the CW network this season. And, this is a Sunbelt opponent, which Noah, based thanks to his previous job, has a lot of expertise on that conference. So he's going to be able to break it down in depth for us. And we're going to just kind of talk through the matchup, some key, things we're looking for in this game as NC State kind of faces a juncture where, you either come out of this one 4-2, or you're 500 at 3-3. So important game coming up. It's a challenging opponent, even though it's a group of 5 team, and we're going to talk through all of it. Before we do that, quick housekeeping note. We're both writers for the wolfpacker.com. That's NC State's site on the On3 network. It is only $1 to join our site for premium access to recruiting scoops, team news for men's and women's basketball and football. We have full coverage. Noah's got a really exciting feature story on MJ Morris coming out tomorrow. And, there's been a lot of MJ Morris discussion this week. It's on our message board. It is heavily featured on the front page of our website, whether it's, him talking to the media, Dave Dorn talking about him, or just our analysis of how he's going to fit into this offense. It's all there. Most of it's free, but the premium stuff is only $1 to see as well. So go check it out. It's the wolfpacker.com. And, if you subscribe to us through YouTube, let us know on the message board. All right, but let's go ahead and dive into it. Noah, before we get into Marshall, the headline of the week has obviously been MJ Morris taking over as starting quarterback. At this point, we've talked to his teammates, we've talked to Coach Doran, we've talked to MJ. Now that you've spent a few days thinking over this change and thinking about what it means for NC State, where are you at on NC State's decision to move forward with MJ Morris as QB1?
Yeah, we talked about this, a couple days ago when they named him the starting quarterback. But I think that, the future is now. Obviously, he gives them a really good chance to win now, but he also gives them a really, really good chance to win in the future, too. And I think that that's really positive to see. I mean, MJ Morris, this is a guy who, I have a story coming out, as you talked about this feature that I've been working on and talking to all these high school coaches and people that know him really well. This isn't anything new starting in the middle of the year. He did it last year, coming in for, an injured Devin Leary. But in high school, he did the same thing as freshman year. He didn't really play much until 5 games to go, gets inserted as a starting quarterback, takes them to the playoffs, win a couple of games there in Georgia, which, it's really hard to do at that, 6A classification. So he's no stranger to becoming a starter in the middle of the season, earning the opportunity to do it. He did it in high school. He did it last year. He's doing it again now. And I think that this is, a comfortable spot for him. It's also a chance for him to keep the job for the next 2.5 years, right? The rest of this season plus, 2 more years. So I think there's a lot of cool, good things to see from MJ Morris. He's comfortable. He seems really loose and excited to be in this spot. And then I don't think any moment is too big for him. I think that, they say that a lot, but when you think about where he's come from, he's played in Georgia. He's played, with some of the best players in the country. I think that it's okay. I mean, this is a guy who was once, the number 1 recruit at one point his sophomore year. I think that this is the spotlight he's been looking for. He gets to the opportunity to take the reins of this team. We'll see how he does, but I think that it may be some growing pains right now, but this is going to pay off next year, and especially for his senior year too.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. I was going back and I was watching the Wake Forest game. I was watching the Virginia Tech game and the Boston College game, the 3 games where he played the most last season. And, man, he is talented. He is a talented passer. And just the command he had over the football coming in as he had been on campus for like 4 months when he kind of emerged into that starting role 2/3 of the way through last season. And he throws a beautiful deep ball. He made good decisions, aside from, a couple freshman mistakes here or there that are to be expected. And now, I mean, you get a full year of development and, just he's a year older, year wiser. And he's told me today when he was talking to us at media availability, he was like, I feel like a full second faster on the field right now. So, hey, he's got all the talent in the world. He was a highly touted recruit, had offers from a ton of Power 5 schools for a reason. Now we're going to get to see what that looks like as a more experienced player, see how he handles, the big stage. But shoot, everyone we've talked to is so confident in him. It's hard not to have confidence in MJ going into this game, because everyone we've talked to is just so has so much faith in the sophomore going forward. And MJ, we were talking about it with Jacarius Peak, the redshirt freshman offensive tackle. I asked him just what's he like as a leader this week. What have you seen from him? And Jacarius was kind of like he's been a leader. Like it's not new. Like he even though he was not the starting quarterback, I think he had a leadership role on this team, and it's not like this is going to be some sudden transition for him. And I believe, based on what Julian Gray said yesterday, like he was already getting practice reps with the starters too. Julian Gray made it sound like they had already practiced together, so they already had an idea of what to expect from MJ and what he'll look like in that offense. So it's exciting. I'm really looking forward to it too for this year. And looking beyond that, I've spoken to a few of NC State's class of 2024 and 2025 commits today, and they're excited about it too. There's a lot of excitement around this move. I think it's going to provide the spark for this team, for the fan base, and in recruiting. So it definitely adds a little more excitement to this season. We'll see how it translates to the field on Saturday, though. And speaking of the field on Saturday, let's get into Marshall. Thundering Herd are undefeated this season. They have a Power 5 win over Virginia Tech, and they are the number 22 scoring defense in the country at, I believe, a shade over 15 points per game. Yeah, 15.67 points per game so far this season. So that's a formidable unit to go against for MJ in his first start. He'll be in Carter Finley Stadium, but this is a team that they're not going to back down because they're playing some ACC school. That Marshall knows they can come in and win this game, and I believe the spread is down to around 7.5 or around something like that. So, Noah, what are you looking for with Marshall? What kind of concerns you about this matchup with the Thundering Herd for Saturday?
Yeah, this is a team that you talk about. They had success playing the ACC Stadium. They played they played against Virginia Tech at home this year and beat them. They went to Notre Dame last year, came out with the win in that one, 26-20. So they're not afraid of walking into a hostile environment. You play at Notre Dame Stadium. I mean, that's as hostile an environment as you're going to find in college football, and they're going to have it here at NC State this weekend. But one thing that's interesting about this Marshall defense is, yes, they're one of the top scoring defenses in the country, but they struggled last week against Old Dominion, who started a new quarterback. Old Dominion makes a change at quarterback, plays Jack Shields, and he looked good. I think ODU was up 21-3 at one point in that game. Marshall storms back thanks to their offense. ODU's defense isn't great. They do have Jason Henderson, who leads the team in tackles, country in tackles, but as a whole, I think Marshall's offense kind of helped them win that game. They came back and, knock off ODU in conference play. So it's interesting. They have a really good scoring defense. They also struggled with Albany to start the year. So it's interesting, but a 41-35 win last week against an ODU team who's, in the bottom 30 teams in the FBS. I don't know, what that really says. So, I mean, it could have been an off week for them. It could have been, their defense isn't that good. I don't know. We'll find out. But, I mean, Marshall's defense has good players on it. That is for sure. I mean, when you look at, the defense, people stick out all over it. I mean, people have trying to pull it up here. Sam Burton has 4 sacks on the year for them. And you just keep going down the list. There's guys that, it's a pretty balanced defense. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 guys that have 10 or more tackles this year. So a lot of tacklers around the field. So that'll be interesting too. But they're good. I don't think it's the best defense that NC State has seen this year, and they're obviously going to see a lot better defenses in ACC play. But it's definitely one of the top 30 defenses in the country. But we'll just see what happens with it.
Yeah, what stood out to me going through Marshall's defense was just their experience. They're not only
Yep.
talented, but they have a ton of experience. Sam Burton, he's a redshirt senior. He's 4 sacks and 16 total tackles. And then Owen Porter, on the other side, he's a 6'3", 237-pound redshirt senior, and he has 3.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and he has only missed 1 tackle attempt this year. I believe that's the same stat for Burton as well. They've both only missed 1 tackle, so they're experienced, sound football players coming off the edge. And then like their best corner, Micah Abraham, he has very solid PFF grades this season, and that's after getting picked as a preseason fourth-team All-American by Phil Steele, and he was a preseason All Sun Belt selection as well. So he's a really talented player. Per PFF, opponents have thrown at him 14 times, completed 6 passes for 90 yards, but he's only given up 6 yards after a catch. I think that's usually pretty useful because it shows you how wide open that guy is. So on those catches, it seems like Abraham's right there. He's making the tackle, preventing any further damage. So they've got a really talented defense. But the player that concerns me by far the most is someone that Peyton Wilson called the best, maybe the best running back in the country, Rasheen Ali. He is an extremely talented back. He has 475 yards on 91 carries this year, 9 touchdowns. Every single one of Marshall's rushing touchdowns this year was scored by Ali. So he is that entire running game. Their quarterback can move around a little bit too, but Ali, he's the feature back there. In the win over Virginia Tech earlier this year, he had 174 rushing yards. So he is really talented. It's kind of similar to the matchup they had with Gerard Jordan last week, where Ali, he's a tough physical runner, and when he gets to that second level, he's gone. Like you're not going to catch him. Like we've talked about, NC State has allowed a few explosive rushing plays this year, but they've put in the effort to chase down the guy and catch him. It's going to be tough to do with Ali. But I mean, shoot, we talked to Coach Gibson today, and he was talking about how much the defense has improved, especially just stopping the run this season. He said, I believe the Louisville game was the first game they played up to his standard in that department. So Noah, with Marshall's offense, just what do you see over there? What are you looking for from the Thundering Herd?
Yeah, their offense really runs through Rasheen Ali. You talked about him having 475 rushing yards this year. Well, he averages 118 a game, and they only have 3 people that have recorded a rushing yard this year. He has the most by far, 91 attempts. Cam Fancher, their quarterback, has 43, and then Ethan Payne, a reserve, has 17 attempts. So the running game goes through Rasheen Ali. He has also scored at least 2 rushing touchdowns in every single game so far this season. Through their first 4 games, he's got 9 total touchdowns, on the ground this year. So that's kind of their offense. But the interesting thing is he's coming off an injury last year, and he didn't play much a year ago. And you think that there's a drop off right when he's that good. They had a Florida State transfer, Colin Liborn, who was even better than Rasheen Ali was this year, and is now in the NFL with the 49ers. So I think that's one. Their passing game isn't that threatening. Yes, I mean it's good. Cam Fancher's thrown for 890 yards. He's completing 70% of his passes, 4 touchdowns, 222 yards a game. But they're really leaning on the run. For the most part, they don't really have they have 2 receivers that have more than 10 catches. Everybody else is under 10 catches. So it shows you they lean on the run and lean on those outside receivers a little bit. So I think, this is an opportunity for NC State's defense to really buckle down again this week, like they did against Louisville. I think if you hold Marshall to 20 rushing lines like they did against Louisville, good chance you're winning this game by a decent margin, just because Cam Fancher, he is a good quarterback. He's 10-1 as a starter at Marshall, but he's not Jack Plummer. If you make them one-dimensional, he will make mistakes, and NC State will be able to capitalize on them.
Absolutely. And yeah, you touched on their receivers. Their leading receiver is actually a tight end, Cade Conley. I'm sure that saying that sentence led to some groans from NC State fans because they have struggled defending tight ends so far this year. But I thought they kind of have started to solve those woes a little bit last year. Against Louisville, Louisville's tight ends had 5 catches for 40 yards. So I think they're starting to, figure that out. And that comes along with, as, Sean Brown and Bishop Fitzgerald continue to develop. And now you get Devin Boykin back as well, it sounds like. So that I think NC State will continue to make strides in that area and plug one of the few weaknesses in this Pack defense. All right, before we get into predictions and all that fun stuff, let's give just one key to the game, Noah. What is one key for NC State beating Louisville? I mean, not Louisville. Sorry.
Marshall, yes, the Thundering Herd. I don't know if they'd like being. I mean, they might like being compared to Louisville. Louisville's a pretty good team right now, but they are too. I think I'll take the obvious one: stopping the run. It's basically a key, against a team that's going to lean on the run as much as Marshall does. But it'll be evident. I mean, I talked to Charles Huff, earlier this week, the head coach at Marshall, who has experience. He's a former running backs coach at Alabama. He's an experienced guy. But talk about how good NC State's defense is and how good their team is. So I think stopping the run is going to be crucial. You to make a team one dimensional. There's a lot better chances that that defense that can turn an offense one dimensional can win the game. So we saw last week they made Louisville beat them through the air, and they did enough through the air to win. I don't think that Marshall's offense has enough. If you take their running game out, I don't know if they have enough to move the ball that much against a Peyton Wilson led defense that is just absolutely outstanding right now. So that's key number one. What do you think, Ethan?
Oh, I'm going with protecting MJ Morris for sure. I mean, you look at the stats so far for Marshall; they're averaging 4 sacks per game. And that's given it's against, not the best competition. Even Virginia Tech, I'm not sure that offensive line is, tremendous. But NC State's offensive line played its worst game of the season last year. Brennan Armstrong dropped back 35 times, and Louisville generated 17 quarterback pressures. That's not good. Armstrong did a good job to extend plays. He only took 2 sacks. But, I don't know what we're going to see as far as that goes from MJ. Like, his numbers last year, when he was under pressure, dropped dramatically. His average yards per target under pressure was in around the 4-yard range. So who knows? It's a freshman compared to a sophomore. We'll probably see a jump in that area, but it's going to be really important to protect MJ, give him time to throw, and minimize those sophomore mistakes in his first start. Getting Dylan McMahon back will be huge. He's expected to return this week at center, so you can slide Lyndon Cooper out to guard and go from there. But the line has to step up a little bit, and we'll see how it goes. But you have to get MJ in a rhythm. You can't make things super hard on him. We just have to see how he handles a pretty impressive defensive front. All right, and we'll be right back with predictions. But first, a word from our sponsor, Game Time. Game Time is a ticket buying and selling marketplace. You can find it at gametime.co or on the Game Time app. It's pretty much for everything, whether it's a game, a concert, comedy show, whatever you're looking for. Game Time has the opportunity to buy or sell tickets for it. It's super easy to use. I have the Game Time app. I use the Game Time app. My favorite thing about it is when you log on to it, you can see exactly the place you'll be sitting from your seat. I'll hold it up to the camera for those watching on YouTube. This is for NC State's game against UNC, and you can see exactly where you'd be sitting. Right now, they say the best deal is a $121 ticket in section 30 or seat 31, row Y. So it looks like a pretty good view. But the cheapest ticket, they have it listed by price for everyone looking for the best bargain. It's $117. So, high demand on that ticket. So go check it out. I know it's a long way until we get there, but those tickets are a hot commodity right now. So go check it out. Go to gametime.co, not .com, it's .co, or download the Game Time app, and then go check out. And when you make your first purchase, use code Wolfpack, all caps Wolfpack, and you get $20 off that purchase. It's a good deal. It's a good app, good service that I use myself. So go check it out. And let's get back into it, Noah. Marshall versus NC State in Carter Finley Stadium, 2 p.m. Let's start with the spread. The spread right now, as I can find it on Action Network, is 6.5. I believe it opened a little higher than that. Correct, Noah? Was it around 7?
They're around 7.5 various places, so it's fallen about a point to a half a point.
Yeah. So Noah, let's break it down. Is NC State going to cover that spread, or how do you see this going?
Yeah, I think they do cover the spread. I think this is a good rebound week for NC State. They had a winnable game against Louisville that they didn't get. They're looking for a spark with MJ Morris. The team, I think, will rally around MJ Morris just because he re-energizes them, as we talked about earlier, just a new face, everything there. I think they cover. I think that they win by more than a score. I truly think they win 24-10. 2 touchdown game. I think they're going to get. We already know what the defense can do. It's about what the offense can do, and I think the offense will come out firing to be able to keep that going for 60 minutes. They played well in the first half as well as they could. I think with the struggles they were having, it just fell off completely in the second half against Louisville. I think that they can sustain whatever they do in the first half. I think they'll be able to sustain that to the second half, put up 24 points, and that'll be enough with the kind of defense that the Wolfpack have.
Yeah, and you talked about the spark, and I do think that's worth something. I know it's not like a tangible thing. It's not something you can measure. But I think having MJ back there is going to provide a little boost to this team. I think they're going to start strong offensively. I think NC State comes out and jumps out to an early lead, and that kind of forces Marshall to have to air the ball out more, and that's not going to go well for them. I think NC State will shut them down defensively. I had a prediction out earlier in the week for I think I had Marshall scoring 17. I'm bumping that down, and 14 points max for the Thundering Herd. Maybe they break off a couple long runs, but that's about it on Saturday. So I think MJ, keeps this in the mid to high 20s. Maybe we look at something like a 27-13 win. I think the Wolfpack will take some steps forward. MJ's arm talent is going to pop. Fans will be very impressed by it. I am very excited for fans to be able to see how talented MJ is. There will be some, underclassmen mistakes, but, NC State will live with those growing pains. I think they won't be too much to prevent any sort of win here, and I think that line is a little too low. So give me NC State to cover, and, breaking down the over-under here is at 44.5. That's not that high, but I guess we both project the under there if I'm doing my math right.
Yep. Math isn't a strong suit, but I had the under, so.
So all right, I wouldn't take our betting advice as gospel, but go put a little money on the under and for NC State to cover if you're interested in that sort of thing. All right. Let's go through it. Who is leading NC State in rushing on Saturday? You can't say Brennan Armstrong anymore, who was kind of our default answer because he had been so much of this team's ground game. And now we have to get a little more creative. Noah, who do you got?
I got Michael Allen. I think this is an opportunity to get some young guys involved. He's shown that he can run the ball, right? Sometimes they just stop giving it to him, leave him out of the rotation. Sometimes just start passing the ball a little bit more. But in a game where MJ Morris, they're going to want to keep him on his feet as much as possible. He can run, but he's not Brennan Armstrong. They're going to have to establish a ground game. And I think that he's the guy to get us going. He's dynamic. He can run up and down the field a little bit. So I think, Michael Allen. If Kendrick Raphael was healthy, I would pick him, but it doesn't seem like he's healthy enough to play this week based on what Dave Dorn said Monday.
Yeah, it sounds like it's not a super long-term thing, but Dorn also didn't say anything about him returning this week. So I'm going with Michael Allen as well. He's the clear choice. He's the feature back with Kendrick hurt. So it'll be Michael and then Delbert Mims. I'm splitting carries. But, I feel like I've been picking it every week, but I'm going to say it again. Michael Allen's going to break a long run. He is due for that explosive play, and it's going to come this week. And he will lead NC State in rushing. But I think it is going to be I think for the rest of the season, it's going to be a pretty pass-heavy offense. So just get ready for that. Be prepared. And I think they'll use MJ on the ground a little bit. But, he can move. He's elusive. I don't think he's the same caliber of runner as Brennan Armstrong. So I think we'll see NC State rely a little more on the passing game moving forward. And speaking of the passing game, Noah, the leading receiver, who's going to catch the most passes and rack up the most yards?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting choice here because MJ Morris has played with both the ones and the twos this year. He's played with almost every receiver that's going to play, right? In practice and things like that. He knows a lot of them. Some of them are in his recruiting class. I'm going to say another breakout game for Terrell Timmons. He looked really good last week with Brennan Armstrong. He's in the same recruiting class as MJ Morris. He's on the second on the two deep, so they're playing a lot together at practice, throughout the year. Give me Terrell Timmons to lead him. I think he gets a couple big gains like he had last week, and maybe not a lot of receptions, but I think he'll lead them in the receiving yard category.
Cool. Yeah, you stole my pick actually, because if you go back and look at last year, when MJ and Terrell were both freshmen, they kind of both broke into the lineup at the same time, and they had an instant connection because, similar to what you hinted at, they were practicing together for most of the year. And they showed off an instant connection. Terrell was catching deep balls. He knew how to time, his routes and his jumps to MJ's passes, and they clearly have a connection. And I think that's a really smart pick. I think he could absolutely lead NC State in receiving yards. I'm going with KC, just a bounce back game from the freshman. I think that Coach Doran pointed it out. They need to get the ball in his hands more. That just has to happen. You cannot have a game like Louisville where KC, your best receiver, had 3 targets. That just can't happen. So I think they're going to get him involved early and often. I think he's going to be a little bit of like a safety net kind of for MJ. A lot of quick routes, a lot of yards after the catch opportunities for the true freshman, and we'll see how he does with that. But I think he'll bounce back and really impress. All right, another one where we've had some consistent answers. But Noah, who's going to lead NC State in tackles?
It's basically been a repetitive thing this year. Through 5 games, only one guy has done it, and we're going to keep on that train. Peyton Wilson will lead them in tackles, but I do think there will be another guy that is close to him in tackles this week, and I think it's going to be the same position. I think Caden Fordham's going to be back again in a kind of a run defense situation. He's the guy. If Sean Brown is playing the whole game, I think he'd be up there with Peyton Wilson, but he's out for the first half. So I think keep Peyton Wilson, but Caden Fordham could be right behind him.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned Sean Brown's targeting suspension yet. It was a marginal call. Noah and I have both kind of agreed, it's probably shouldn't be targeting. It shouldn't be. I feel pretty strongly about that. It is consistent with the way it's been officiated this season. And NC State appealed it, and the appeal got denied. I'm a little surprised by that, too. I feel like the league has been pretty lenient on overturning those first half suspensions, but they didn't for Sean. So he'll miss the first 2 quarters, but come in and be ready to contribute in the second half. He's been awesome. Coach Gibson, had a ton of praise for him today. He's been really good for the Wolfpack over the last few games. And I'm going to go with, I agree, Peyton Wilson. He's the Buck-Kiss National Linebacker of the Month. There might not be a better linebacker in the country right now. He's probably going to lead the team in tackles. Just want to give a shout out to Devin Boykin, who really was doing some really good work in run defense early in the season. So I'm going to say he's going to be up there too, out of the safety spot. I think they're going to be able to keep the safeties a little more close to the box because I don't think Marshall's like a huge threat to beat them deep. So they'll be able to stack the box, and Devin will get in there and, upon his return, create some havoc in the box there, stopping the run. All right. Noah, before we head out, one bold prediction.
Bold prediction. NC State under 3 sacks because Marshall's only given up 2 all year. So under 3 sacks.
That is a bold prediction. I like that one. I'm going to go with more than 3 forced turnovers. I think they are going to be able to force Marshall into a tough situation where they're going to have to be one-dimensional, and their quarterback is is a little turnover prone. And I think they're going to force him into some mistakes, maybe a couple interceptions and a couple fumbles. And the defense is going to hold up its part of complementary football. It's going to give MJ some short fields to work with that I think he'll take advantage of and keep this game as a blowout for most of it. All right. Well, Noah, we hit the half-hour mark pretty much exactly. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And, we're going to have updates throughout the week in the run-up to kickoff. So check us out on the wolfpacker.com. Again, for our premium content. We've posted a few recruiting scoops up there over the past couple of days. They just had an official visitor up there who is trending heavily towards NC State right now. Go check it out. And it's only $1 for all of that. So it doesn't get much cheaper than that. Please go check it out. And thanks to our sponsor, Game Time, as well. We will be back on Sunday right after the game to, break down everything that happened, talk through everything, and we'll have so much game day and post-game content up on thewolfpacker.com. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, like, comment, share. It means a lot to us. And we'll talk to you later this week. Thanks for watching.